Warning, explicit content. This material may not be suitable for children. Listener discretion is advised.
What up, knuckleheads? Welcome to Mining Minds. Welcome to The Face. Dino Brunson.
What's cracking?
Christopher Rodriguez.
What up?
We're all in the house tonight, hanging out. We're going to toss this back and forth, just the three of us this evening. Enjoying a couple beers. We're going to talk about mine rescue and the importance it had on our careers, maybe the importance it's had in the industry as a whole, and talk a little bit about the Olympiad coming up. It's a pretty big event here in town. Chris, I know you've been in mining and the mine rescue field probably more than Dino and I. Dino and I definitely have our experiences, but you've hosted one of these Olympiads coming up. Think, man, give us the word on that.
On the end of hosting things, it's a big deal. There's a lot of moving parts you got to get. You're putting on an event for sometimes upward of 20 teams. It really depends on the year or whatever, but you might get 15 teams one year, you might get 20. And when you got 20 teams of 7 members, a coordinator, maybe a couple alternates, and you're trying to put this thing together and host a fun day, the day 1 and day 2 of the competition, it's a lot of stuff to get together. And you're working with a lot of components of the community, different vendors that work out at the mine support it. Within the mine itself, obviously you get that support, financial backing and all that stuff. And I think really what it comes down to is these competitions, we call it a competition, but really it's a training as well, And so, I think you've obviously participated in them, Derek, and I don't know, Dino, did you ever compete?
Yeah, I've done one.
Okay. So it was really just kind of, in terms of putting it on and hosting it, it's very stressful. You're running the whole time.
Oh, I bet, man. Just from a competitor standpoint, when you get there, it's almost overwhelming, right? You get there, it was one of the first teams that Bald Mountain had put out, and down to preparing as a mine site, you want to go out there with the same pants, the same shirt, you want to have something that's going to work for you. And when I went into it, it was like, there was stuff there that we didn't even train. We'd go into different stations and it was like, roll this fire hose up into this. And it's like, can I take a valve, please? It's like, wow. What are you talking about? It was like they were talking French to us, right? To where there's a lot of things that these guys are training that out at the mine sites, whether you're big, small, whatever it is, that goes into fighting fires, saving somebody's life, whether it's CPR, everything in all together. It blew my mind as a first year mine rescue competition guy. But the best part about it for me was the fun day, because you got to meet people from all over the place, right? Wyoming, teams here in Nevada. Great experience for me. I can't imagine putting it on and being the coordinator that has to wrangle 150 people together, plus all the people that are helping with it, right? And yeah, a great experience for me. I know the Mine Rescue Olympiad's coming up here in Elko. We're hoping to get on that platform to be here just to support and be maybe patients or whatever it might be. But for me, it was an awesome experience, and it opened my eyes to what the mine rescue community does for the mine sites.
Well, we jumped into this right away with the whole mine rescue competition. Prior to even getting into competition, you need to have a mine rescue team. And your team should be training. It should be getting out there and practicing some of these things that, like you said, you jumped in. There's a ton of different ways to roll up a fire hose, right? So let's take a step back real quick and maybe talk to you guys about what that was like, because you came into the mining industry, and a lot of places you have to be there for a year, there for 6 months, qualify for mine rescue, even to be on a team at a mine site. And then you get in, and if you're lucky, you get some good training. If you're lucky, you get to be part of the competition team and raise your hand and be part of the select group. So walk me through some of that for both of you guys. What does that look like, or how did you get into mine rescue? Let's start with you, Chris.
So when I started out at the mine, pretty much immediately wanted to join mine rescue. It was something that I took a lot of interest in. I knew people that were doing it already, but unfortunately they already had a full crew on my crew that I was working on. So I had to wait. I think it was probably about 9 months before I was able to join. So I went in, I interviewed for the mine rescue team and ended up getting onto the team. And then it was really just monthly trainings and stuff like that for the first, I think probably 6 months. They actually moved pretty quick with me and the other people that came onto the team with me. And looking at it now that I've had some experience in the coordinator position, I'm assuming that was probably because of a shortage, right? We had a whole bunch of new people coming in probably. And so I got into an EMT class quick. I got into a rope rescue class really quick. All within my first year, I had EMT, 40-hour rope rescue, hazmat, firefighting, all those trainings, ELF firefighting class. And so it moved really quick. It was a lot of information really fast. And it was really engaging for me. I'm that type of person that I kind of thrive on that kind of thing. And I was really excited about it. Dove into it head first. Getting onto the competition team is what it took me a little bit longer. There was an opening a few years before I started competing. And I actually started training with the competition team before I actually competed. So I would train with them, but I wouldn't compete because there was just some stuff, home life and things that weren't permitted at the time. So it was 2 years of training with the competition team before I ever even competed with them. And then when there was an opening and I decided, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to do it. The opening was there. I'd already trained with a lot of the guys, so there was already some synergy there, some camaraderie and all that stuff. Plus, a lot of them were already on my crew. A lot of that team back then was made up of components off of my crew already.
What, in your mind, how did you get into mine rescue competition? I mean, because not everybody can just train with a competition team. So how are you allowed into that circle?
I don't know. I think it's run a little bit differently at each mine. I think a lot of it had to do with showing the drive and want.
And that's what I thought. And that's kind of why I asked.
Yeah, it really comes down to, and I think that this is still, and I offered it up while I was a coordinator. I would tell people, that we were open to having new people come to the competition team. There's little bits. Usually when you get a competition team, they stick together for a little while and then they'll kind of one by one
trickle out.
Stop. So I would always offer it up to the crews and I would let people know that were interested. They're like, hey, I'm interested, but I don't know if I have the time commitment. And I said, well, hey, come to the competition training, see if it's something that you actually want to do, and then we'll go from there. And most of the time they would never show up. Right. So you get somebody like me that was like, hey, I can't do this from competition and travel standpoint, but I want to be there and I want to work with the teams and I want all the extra training I can get. So it was maybe an advantage for me when I did come into it and started actually competing with the guys. They knew what my capabilities were. They knew what my weaknesses were.
They knew who you were,
who I was, all that stuff. So I really think if you're looking to be on the competition team, just ask if you can come to the training. And even if you're a patient or whatever, you're going to learn. You're going to have 7 different people or 8 different people do a patient assessment on you. You think you won't learn anything there? You're going to learn something, right?
And that's similar to how I did the mine rescue. I came on and said, you want to come and check it out? And I said, absolutely. At that point, I was a backup. I was a reserve, or somebody that would fill in if somebody broke their leg or whatever, but I would get to participate if that happened. And the funny thing is that year I was competing because they had somebody break their leg and somebody left and moved on and whatever else. But how did you get into it, Dino?
Kind of want to take a step back because you mentioned something there, Chris, where you said you took a step back and you said firefighter training. That was something that at the mine that I was at, I didn't get at that time. What we did out at our site was just wildland firefighting, right? So for the people that are listening out there, what is ELF? What does that mean?
It's entry-level firefighter, so it's not quite firefighter 1. It's kind of some basics.
So essentially, it's something that you could take as a mine employee, you can take into the community, be a volunteer firefighter, and utilize that experience from that the mine teaches you and bring that into the community. Because I think that's what we see here in our area is that a lot of our mine rescue people branch out into the city, into the county, and they're running with county ambulance, the volunteer firefighters, to where I just wanted everybody to understand it because I didn't understand what that meant. How I got into the mine rescue out at the first mine that I worked at, I'd seen people walking around with the jackets on, right? And to me, growing up playing sports, always being involved with stuff, I seen that as being a part of a team, being a part of myself. And the second week I was there, I was knocking on the door of the rescue coordinator saying, hey man, how do I get in? And just like you guys are saying, you know what, you're gonna have to wait 3, 6 months, 9 months, whatever it was. But I was that guy, just always knocking on the door, like, how do I do this? And I think that's what separates the guys that want to do it from the guys that kind of want to do it, right? They just want the jacket or the shirt. And they said, yeah. And that's what it was too. It was an extra day or 2 of overtime a month. And I guess I never really looked at it like that. From my experiences, our dad passed away at a mine in Chile, right? And my driving force when I got to the mine was, I don't want somebody else to have to experience that, man. It was pretty heavy for me. And I said, if I can be a part of this, there isn't going to be somebody like that on the mine site to go like that under my watch, right? So that was my driving force. So when I got into the trainings, I really didn't know what I was getting into. The rope rescue trainings blew my mind. Awesome trainer. I wish I could remember the guy's name, but we were rappelling off of water towers, going vertical, or what do they call that, where your head's down towards the ground, trying to, do a rope rescue on a dummy. When I seen that, thought, this scares the shit out of me. Get me up there. And I'm standing up there, tied off, got my carabiners and everything ready to go. And I went upside down, whatever you want to call it, and I was freaking out inside, but I knew I had to hold it together. And really, that's what I learned from, I guess, knowing that my driving force was, you have to do this at this point. You know what I mean? When I got into it and I started learning the rope rescue, then I transitioned into trying to get to the EMT level. They only sent certain people to the EMT classes, and I wanted to be one of those guys. When I went to the EMT classes, I had, I don't know if Chris remembers or not, but Chris was my teacher at being an EMT, you and Mike Riley, and sitting through class and trying to get everything down. And I mean, it's almost like you're getting fed by a fire hose, right? There's just a lot of information. And I will give that to all the miners that are out here on top of their work schedule. You're getting force fed how to keep somebody alive, how to get somebody from point A to point B from an hour to an hour and a half outside of town, back to town safely, and keep them alive. And so I made it through the EMT class, and it was awesome. I thought, hey man, I'm kicking ass. Right? I'm killing it right now. These guys provided me some awesome training. It was you, Steve Adams. You guys used to call him Doc. I remember one story about Doc Adams, Bob Phillips. He would talk about Mr. Adams. He'd be like, this guy is going to strip and flip you every single time. Doesn't matter what's going on, but he's going to strip and flip you.
Yep.
And I'm like,
you got a hangnail, he's going to cut your clothes off.
Right. So I'm like, Bob, I'm raising my hand. What do you mean by strip and flip? And he's like, he's going to take your clothes off. He's going to make sure that you don't have any wounds. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I finally met Steve, and everything started to click. Got through my class, and part of my class anyway, was having to run with the Elko ambulance service, right? To where,
Did you say ambulance?
Bambulance. But so I did that, right? And you have to run so many shifts, the ambulance service. And I'll tell you what, guys here and the ladies here in Elko, they've got a job on their hands. They really, really do. And I guess you never really respect it until you get there. But
puts into perspective what those first responders actually do. And you can talk about EMTs or paramedics, firefighters, and police officers, even to that point, because in mine rescue, your job might be security, and keeping everybody else out. So there's a lot of things out there that those individuals on the mine rescue team have to manage, that there's stress out there involved with that other people don't necessarily see.
Yeah, totally. So as I went through my class and I was running with the EMT service, I was like, hey man, I'm going to be the best I can be, right? I was super pumped. Like, I'm just going to knock this out of the park. So we're sitting at the ambulance barn and we're hanging out on my first shift. What are we going to do? Doing push-ups. Like, come on. Oh, what's going on? What are we going to do? Not one call on my first night. I'm like, well, shit. I guess that's 12 hours. How do I sign up for another 12? Next night, I signed up for another 12. And it was like, that tone goes off. And all of a sudden, your adrenaline, it just spikes through the roof. And you don't know what you have. You're not driving. You're in the back. And you're with experienced people. And they're saying, hey, I need you. My first experience was going out and went to a house, and this guy had brain cancer and he was losing his mind. We got there. It was probably one of the most uncomfortable places I've ever been, seeing another individual like that, right? Got to his house, he's in his bed and he's talking to the wall. And when I got there, I was the first one to go in with one of the paramedics, and he thought he was at Disneyland. He thought that I was Donald Duck and somebody else is Mickey Mouse. And we started talking him down a little bit, tried making him comfortable. And obviously, people that were with us were trying to keep, the significant other calm down. And My job when we pulled the patient out of the house and we're loading him in the ambulance because he was starting to vomit, my job was to hold the bag. And so I'm holding the bag and I'm like, I'm trying not to throw up myself.
Started making Donald Duck noises.
Oh yeah. I'm like, whoa, shit, maybe I am at Disneyland. to where I'm like, holy crap, man. Okay, I guess this is what life's all about, right? And we got him to the hospital. We got him there. We got him to where I'm basic life support at this point, right? We got him to the hospital to where the doctors could do their thing. And I thought, holy shit, I signed up for this. Okay, cool. Not bad, right? So we keep going. And about 20 minutes later, shoo, tone goes off again. I'm thinking, I thought my work was done here. Like, I just did my job, right? No. And here we go. Next thing you know, we're traveling down the street. About a 65-year-old lady laid over on the side of the road, face all bruised up, black eyes, and just reeked of booze. Luckily, one of the people that I was with, she spoke Spanish, and the lady told her that her husband just beat her, and her blood pressure was super low. We were having a hard time keeping her stable, but we got her back, got her to the hospital too. And man, I really started questioning, like, what the hell's going on? Like, am I suited for this? Went back to work, and went a couple weeks, and everything kind of calmed down for me. But I started looking at people different, right? I just started thinking different. And I think that's the biggest part of what Mine Rescue did for me, is I started thinking about, how do we keep the scene safe? How do we make sure that nobody's talking about what's going on here, and we're keeping the scene safe? We're keeping everybody that's in the scene confidential, right? We had a couple incidents out at the mine site that I was a part of that put you to the test. And so for me, the rescue end of it, I really didn't know what I was signing up for. I think at first I was signing up for that jacket, right? And I had a ton of fun training with the guys, the hazmat, the rope rescue, and getting my EMT just to say that I was an EMT. But when it comes down to it, you have to stand behind your word, right? And that's what it was all about for me. And I had a 4-year career in doing the mine rescue thing. I did do the competition. Chris, I do thank you for all the training that you did give me. You and Mike Riley were instrumental in the growth of that mine. You guys partnered up with the mine that I was at and brought our rescue teams to another level.
Yeah, and that was Bob Phillips' work. I mean, that guy did a lot for
dude was a stud
for the area.
For the industry, from the northern Nevada area.
Yeah, absolutely. For those mines, all pretty much back in the day, guys would have to go to work right after class, and they're studying in their haul trucks and trying to make that whole thing come together. And the class is spread out over a longer course of time. And then it was Bob that got everything rolling on hey, we're going to take 28 days. And the people would get 28 days. You're going to go sit in that classroom. And you might have to go to work on the weekends or whatever, depending on what your schedule was. But you got the time. The company dedicated the time, and those guys got paid to sit there in that class. And so that showed a lot from Bob's end on getting it set up, from the operator's end on supporting that and paying their employees to sit through that long of a class. But to go back to what you were saying, I mean, I don't think anybody knows what they're getting themselves into when they join Mine Rescue, because when you look at, I mean, it's comparable to maybe a fire department. Those guys, they get to see it. It's a bad thing to see that stuff all the time, but it's totally in terms of your skills, right? You're going to stay up on your skills when you're practicing that stuff all the time. But I mean, even fire departments, you're talking probably mostly medical is what they deal with. But so I don't know. I just think that when you sign up for Mine Rescue, you got to understand that you're opening the door to a lot of different things.
Oh, Pandora's box.
And my biggest driver when I was on Mine Rescue was, I don't want to ever show up to a scene, no matter what it is, and not know what the fuck I'm doing. I didn't want to be that guy. I wanted people to be able to depend on me. If they were in that situation, they were hurt or trapped somewhere or whatever the case might be. So, and that was the expectation on my crew and on the team that I competed on. You were expected to know all your shit.
Dude, I will tell you though, I mean, as you check your phone, in my opinion, you and the guys that you grew up with in the underneath Bob Phillips, in my opinion, are somewhat legends as far as the mine rescue community is concerned. I mean, you've got yourself, you've got Mike Riley, you've got Rich Meyer, you know what I mean? 3 guys that have taken it above and beyond, you know what I mean? And right now you're working for a contractor, but you're still utilizing those skills, you know what I mean? And those are sort of life lesson skills that you can teach people to be calm in situations. And I'm not a calm guy, right? I mean, I get fired up about a lot of stuff, but that's what it taught me, or that's what you guys taught me was, you know what, man, BSI. First of all, BSI, scene safe. And you have to think, you have to shut your emotions down, and you have to start calculating on what's going on, you know?
You're absolutely right. I think we talk about legends and things like that, and you have to throw a Jeremy Zeiler in there.
Oh, yeah,
you have to throw there's a handful of people.
Dude, Jay Rice did a great job at where we were at. You know what I mean?
Mike Green was a big one for me. He showed me.
Mikey Green. Hey, bless that guy.
Well, so that's the thing, right? And that's why I was extremely lucky is you're talking about, we've now said 3 names within this list of, you know, legends, and Rich Meyer, Mike Riley, Mike Green. I was fortunate enough to compete with all those guys,
right.
and to learn from them prior to even going into competition, and to understand that standard, and to drive really hard. And you got different personalities, but every single one of them's a go-getter, right? And they want to be at the top. They want to be in the upper echelon of all competitors and all responders. You know, they weren't willing to settle for average.
No,
that wasn't a word that we were familiar with.
Well, I think you said it. I think you hit it right on the head, man. And sorry to interrupt you, Derek, but it's that standard, and I really do think that Bob Phillips set that standard. Like you said, Mike Green, dude, he was phenomenal on rope rescue, right? He was a stud. I definitely looked up to you guys. I still look up to you guys for what you did, for the training that you gave us, for the, how do you say it, when you brought your whole team to our site and just said, hey man, this is how we do it. You guys are building professionals, or you've built professionals along the way, and that knowledge is getting trickled down. And some of the podcasters that we've had in here, Tim Chapman, Tom Mann, those guys have benefited from the things that you guys had brought to our site.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at it like say a coaching tree of in football, the West Coast offense, you know, it starts somewhere, right? And I think the same thing with mine rescue in some ways, where I think right now for us and the people who have in this area, I would say that, hey, Bob Phillips sitting at the top of that coaching tree, and everything kind of branched off from there.
He's the Bill Belichick.
Yeah, I really think that. And you've seen tremendous amounts of success, right, from the people that kind of grew up in mine rescue underneath of him, and
you see the individuals that were cut from that cloth. They went out to be coordinators, and then the people that have succeeded under them, and like there's that trickle down effect, and that cloth, so to speak, is going away or has went away. But you still have some solid people out in that industry that's doing that work. And kind of to touch on a couple things you guys said, Dino, you said you looked at mine rescue differently, context like that. For me, I looked at people differently. I looked at their lives, their situations, and I went, this guy's an on-real SOB, but I want to be able to help him regardless.
So let's get into your story a little bit, Grover. How did you get into the rescue side of things? Why did you get into the rescue side of things? And how has it transitioned you into your career now?
A lot of similar ways as you. And Chris, I was interested in it. You were the one that kind of planted the seed, like, hey man, when you get in, you need to try this out. Got in. I was knocking on the door day one of working and going, hey, what does it take? What does it take? Finally, they let me in, got through some of the trainings, and I just dug it. I was like, man, this is awesome. I didn't know my ropes. I didn't know hazmat, but I got to sit in some of those trainings. And the Tim Chapmans of the world, Annie helped me out a ton. Annie McWilliams, she, even though she was on opposite sides of the week, she would always email me stuff or send me different things. And those guys kind of brought me along. When Mike Riley showed up to be our coordinator, he lit a whole different fire under that mine site's ass and brought it to a whole nother level. And I think you have to have almost an A-type personality when you're on a competition team, because you got to be hungry. You got to be self-motivated. Nobody's going to do it for you, and it's a healthy competition. And so I wanted to come in and be a part of it, just kind of train like you did, Chris. Ended up falling into a spot because people weren't able to do it. And to the point you guys both made, when you're asked to show up and do the work, you better damn well know how to do that, because somebody's life's going to depend on that. Not only that, there's a sales side of it too, because you got tough miners out there that don't want to seek medical treatment or think that they're all right. And so again, when Mike came out there, he provided a lot of that knowledge. I mean, I'm cut from that cloth, one step removed from the Bob Phillips, right? I didn't get directly, I actually got a lot of training from Bob, but I mean, Mike was my coordinator that kind of pointed me in the right direction, gave me the opportunity to be on the competition team and see, hey, a group of like-minded individuals, people that are hungry, can actually go out and compete with the best of the best. And not only that, take that back to the mine site and trickle that back down to your individuals at the mine site. Because what your competition team does is then takes it down and trains to your individual crews. And then your individual crews go, why do I need to learn this? I said, well, you got a lot of people out there that go, why do I need to know rope? Why do I need to know hazmat? And you explain to them what happens when that berm doesn't catch the next person that backs into it too hard. That person goes over that berm and they're 600 feet down. You need to be able to pull them out. And you might be the only one on site because there's vacations and everybody else out that needs to be able to tie a square knot or whatever it is. Once you start relaying that back to them, it's a different emphasis, right? And so that, for me, that's kind of my story. Chris, been with you in competitions. We trained a lot together. We've had a lot of fun times with your group. I remember one story I would like to share. Chris volunteered his truck. You're going to have to explain this because we had it was 3 properties at the time, 3 decent sized properties. And we were kind of the new kids on the block, but there was a group that, you circled and we had different stations. And the group that was on your truck was the I would say the guerrillas, right? They're out there and wanted to strong arm everything.
Yeah, well, everybody that came to my truck, really, they didn't hold back. I think our team also had one guy jumping on another guy's back. He was pulling on a rope just to try to get more leverage on that thing. And I was like, you know what? I was sitting on the second floor looking out into the parking lot, and I just stopped. I just stopped looking out there. I didn't want to see what they were doing to my truck anymore. I just was like, I'll look at it after. I'm going to wait to see if there's any wobbles in it,
But the scenario called for somebody who was stuck under your vehicle.
Yeah. So there was somebody stuck underneath the vehicle. And here's the rub on it, was that if the teams would have done a full scene assessment, they would have found the jack.
Found it.
They would have found the jack.
Found it.
So, yeah, I think there was another team that noticed it after they had taped it out of the scene. And here's one of those things where at some competitions, it's the way it goes. That happened to our team one year where a ladder that was kind of crucial for completing a scenario was taped out of a scene, and they said, no, you taped it out.
So when you're talking about taping it out, you're talking they actually rope off the scene for safety purposes.
Yeah, so you create your scene basically as you're setting the perimeter of your scene with tape, and you're saying that this is the secured area, right? This is our secured area. And so a lot of the time in competition, once you do that, they'll exclude anything from outside of that tape now. They're saying, hey, this is the area you check. This is your working area now. So if you're on a mine rescue team, make sure you check out everything before you tape it out. But yeah, those guys did a number on my truck, man. They there were some guerrillas, like you said, they were beating it up quite a bit. I think it ended up with a dent. That was about it.
Trying to lift it with personnel, trying to lift it with a tripod.
Yeah.
There were multiple knuckleheads trying to do.
There were some interesting ways. Like I said, there was one of our guys, one big boy pulling on the rope, and then another kind of big boy jumping on his back. It's just like, okay, I'm not watching this anymore. I gotta.
So that's the fun part about mine rescue is that it's unique in the sense that you're asked to solve a problem with individuals that their majority of their work is to power through it. How do you muscle through this, right? And so now you're asking them to step back and intellectually process this and figure out the problem. So
my question is, like, for my first or my only competition that I did, after I stepped back to looked at it, was like, who comes up with these scenarios, right? Because all these guys are out there going gung-ho. What they want to do is they want to secure the scene. They want to make sure they got their BSI on, and they're surveying the scene, right? And there's so much going on. In my scenario, we had somebody in a loader, somebody in a truck, and I was the person that had to go up to the loader because the loader had hit the truck, and there was a lady in the loader, and it was, okay, cool. My job, my captain told me, you go up there and make sure she's okay. Directive, boom, I'm gone. I get up there, I open the door, and I go to reach in, and I'm talking to her, and the cab smells like shit. And I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck's going on here? Did this lady just fart before I got here, or what's up? I get one of the guys come taps me on the shoulder and says, you're out. What do you mean I'm out? She farted, bro, not me, right? And he's like, no, you just got bit by a snake. I'm like, what are you talking about? I look down, and there's a rubber snake on the floor of the loader. And so now I've got another person coming to me, my own teammate, trying to take care of me inside this whole scenario, and they're wrapping me up, and I'm trying to help, and they're like, hey, you can't help. you're on the sidelines now. And I'm thinking to myself, who comes up with this shit, man? I mean, it's cool because you got to think outside the box, and it teaches you every area that you walk into, you've got to be aware of all of it. And I just opened the door to make sure she was okay. And it's all about your senses. It's about your sight, your hearing. And now I know it's about the smell. It's like, holy shit. I don't know how she sat in there with the cab closed with whatever it was in there. Maybe she did fart. I don't know. But it was like, damn it.
No, that was we put that one on that year.
Thanks, Chris.
But that's, you hit a key point, is that Mind Rescue is about your senses, your sight, sound, smell. Even taste, right? Because you can smell stuff that you can taste every now and then.
Oh, I think I fucking tasted that thing for sure.
For a week after probably.
It was terrible.
But when you're doing an assessment, right? You can feel people that got broken ribs, or you can feel a lump in somebody's neck, or whatever it is. Mind Rescue teaches you to focus on to consider many possibilities, but still have to have an end objective.
Yep.
And that's something that not a lot of people get to experience, man. And not only that, you're under pressure the entire time.
And you have to hold it together.
You have to make a decision, and you have to be open to adapting on that plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can't
Well said.
ever stick to just one plan, and
Yep.
you have to be paying attention to the little details, and those are the things that people would be like what you're saying, who the fuck comes up with this stuff? And the whole intention behind it, and some of it might seem silly, people will bitch about it too, and
I did.
but the thing is when you step back from it and you look at what the intention of that was, you go, okay, they want me to be paying attention at all points,
Yep.
all times, not tunnel vision. I can't just focus on one thing. I have to be prepared for just about anything, the baby over the berm, or the snake in the cab, or whatever it might be. And what that does is it translates to a higher acuity, when you
Sense of awareness.
yeah, sense of awareness, and you've always got this kind of 360-degree view of an emergency response scene that then translates to your work site.
It absolutely does. And I think we don't understand, or sometimes that's not a tangible thing that we can pass on or explain to people. But I know when we talk about what it's done for your career, I don't know that I would be able to manage as many things as I do right now and still have an acute focus on the important ones had it not been for those Mind Rescue experiences, both the practices and the trainings and real life events that we've had to go to. Because the training's fun and it's cool to joke about, but when you have to actually apply that stuff in the real world, and you're sending people out on the flight for life, and you're backboarding people, and somebody's bleeding, you know what I mean? That's when it gets real, and that's when you rely on that training, and you thank God you've had that training. But I don't know how to explain it. It's
got to be muscle memory at that point. You've got to, and that's why the trainings every month, or the couple times a month that the Mind guys get to do, that's why you got to take it serious. It's not about the overtime. It's about that laser focus on how do I keep my skills sharp, in my opinion. I mean, and I guess that's where I'd like to ask you guys, how did you guys, or when you first got into it, or even as you were in it in your career, how did you take that back to your guys' crews and say, or just make it known that this is what we do. You guys can believe in me, because that's what it takes. The site that I was at, there wasn't a whole lot of belief. And once we started getting more training, there were more people involved. It stopped becoming the shirt game. It started becoming, hey man, and I hate to say it, but that's kind of the cool crowd, right? These guys here, they're serious now. Was it the same way at your site?
No, not for me. When the competition team and the crew that I came on to, like I said, I was extremely lucky. They were already on point for the most part.
world class, you can say.
Yeah,
sure.
For sure on the competition end of things, absolutely. And a lot of them that were on the crew were world class responders outside of that. But when it comes to the competition stuff, it's just that might be your first exposure to certain things, because some of those things, hopefully, you don't have to respond to on a mine site, and for the most part, you're probably not going to. But that's why it's so important to go to those competitions and to do good quarterly drills as the coordinator for your teams, and to put them into these real life clusterfuck situations where it's like you're taxing the resources and you're making them think, how are we going to do this? And you got people treating several patients, and you got them calling in helicopters, and you got them doing all these things that we've prepared for and you've talked about and you've trained for, but then you put them in the seat to do it. And then you go back at the end of, say, a quarterly drill, and you talk about it and you critique it. That's one of the best things I think about Mine Rescue, is that even the top tier guy that you're looking up to at a quarterly drill, he'll get called out. at the end of it, and be like, hey, this is where you fucked up, and for the most part, they'll own it. I shouldn't say he or she, they'll own it and get better from that, right?
So one of the most important things I think about mine rescue, the scenarios are great. One of the key aspects for me was the debrief. When you could sit there next to your brother or sister and talk about where I screwed up, where you screwed up in a very candid and a very open way. And it wasn't about hurting feelings. It wasn't about picking on anybody. It was about how do we as a team get better. And groups that have a good debrief, groups that have a good session afterwards to talk about those things are successful people, in my opinion, because you can feel good about yourself, but until you actually are able to sit back and point out your flaws, other people can point out your flaws without feelings of getting hurt, which is really tough to do in this day and age. I think you're going to struggle being successful. And to your point, Chris, you came from, like you said, you had the opportunity to be in a world-class organization. I always think about you guys were the heydays of the Yankees. That's kind of what your site was like. A lot of people looked up to you guys and how you did things. Dino, I very much fell into the same thing that you did. And to be honest, it wasn't about anything other than proving to these guys. Somebody would say, well, because we had Tim on and he was kind of talking about it. We didn't have a lot of support. It was a T-shirt and an orange hard hat wearing game. And I finally had a conversation with one of the old timers out there. I ain't going to let anybody from Mine Rescue touch me. I said, the beauty of it is if you sign this release form right here, I don't even have to. I can sit here and watch you die. He looked at me like, you son of a bitch. But as soon as I got them to start believing, right, and seeing like, hey, I know my stuff, that whole mentality starts to shift.
We'll keep going with the baseball references because back in the day, kind of looked at us like the Bad News Bears, right? We were just coming on as a sub part of what you guys were offering, and we were growing as a team. And one of the things that I think helped change our mind as a mind site back then was every 6 months we would go through a scenario with the management team, and the whole management team would be there was an IC
incident command,
right? There was a whole IC center, and your mine manager, your general superintendent, your maintenance superintendent, they weren't necessarily in those management roles at that point. It was the rescue people, and the rescue people started directing work and started directing what needed to happen for that scenario. And I actually think that started giving a little bit more respect to the rescue guys, because it showed the management team that, hey, trainings that we're supporting, they're working. And you know what? We have got some future leaders on our rescue teams that are just going to totally dominate. And I was very appreciative of it, being able to walk through some of that stuff. Jeremy Zeiler was a part of it, and I know he was a part of setting some of that stuff up because he'd been in that situation before, and he came underneath Bob Phillips as well. Mm-hmm. But for me, those things were huge for that mindset to start believing in the teams that they have out there now. And the management team can sleep well at night, I believe, going, these guys got it covered.
Well, and Mine Rescue's looked at as a lot of times, there's always a battle. And Chris, you can talk to this. You're not needed until you're needed, right? So it's hard to fund this. It's hard to see the value in it until there's something catastrophic that happens. These guys show up and do their job.
Yeah, Mine Rescue always gets a boost in support after something happens. And it's more of an insurance policy. It's hard to see the direct benefit of it. And that's like when Dino was talking about the ICC and staffing that for the drills, that's something that on the site that I was at, we had a hard time with. We would call out a drill, and we needed to let the mine manager know before we called out a drill. But that was about it, and so we would call out a drill and say it was happening at a processing facility. We would be calling for an IC to set that up, and we would have a hard time staffing it.
A lot of places do.
And the thing that I have to say about that is, hopefully you don't ever have to sit in an IC if you're skipping out on those, because there's a lot going on in there and you don't want to be flying by the seat of your pants. And a lot of the times they would want extra ICC trainings and stuff like this. And you're like, well, there's 4 drills a year you could come to, mm-hmm. And so it's one of those things where when you sit in there, you can find the value in it, and you don't want to be in an actual emergency without sitting in on a drill on the ICC side, because they're relying so much on information from ICC, and you've got so many moving parts in ICC, and you're making decisions that are going to be put in motion out in the field. by people that you can't even see. You're relying on information through radio, phone, and those types of things, right?
Even the documentation end of it. I mean, having a scribe, having somebody there that's listening to every word that you're saying, trying to get things down to relay that information to whether it's Elko County or the other responding people that are coming to meet you, right?
Well, when you're talking ICC, it's interesting because I was just involved with one of these recently, right? And when you talk about training of ICC, it's one thing we highlighted that we definitely want to do better at, which I think you always want to do better. So it went well. But what I noticed as I looked around the room is that these guys have the knowledge. They don't have the structure. They don't know, and so that's the hard part, is to go, how do I take a superintendent or a manager and now put them in a role where they're directing logistics, or they're going to be my communications person, and they're trying to wrap their head around taking different directives too. But there's gaps in the system, right? Because if you don't have a good ICC, that communication that you're talking about, it breaks down. And the worst thing that can happen is that if you have a major incident go down and then all of a sudden a gap happens or miscommunication happens, something inside there happens, and that's when you have one individual that was, say, hurt or has a fatality now turns into 2, 3, or 4 because of miscommunication. So a valuable ICC is invaluable, I guess is what I would say. And it's cool too, because I've been a part of those, Dino, that you were talking about, where management's in there, and they set up a couple chains of communication in this one where, rightfully so, they did the right steps. So this is the fun part about it. And you go through the process, and we were on a hazmat scene, and there was an individual that we had no pulse. We couldn't pronounce him dead, but we called for the sheriff to come out and basically pronounce him dead. And they asked us to move the body multiple times. And we, on multiple times, said, come back again. We have no pulse. There's nothing. We can't say that he's dead, right? But you're essentially saying he's dead in medical terms, and you're not supposed to move a body. It's a pretty big deal.
Right. Yeah.
So, excuse me.
So we ended up doing what we did because we went through the chain of commands. And I love Mike Riley for this, because you have all the managers in there. As soon as we get down and we debrief, all the managers are in there. Couple corporate people to see how this thing played out. In the scenario, everything else went fairly well. We got in there, and Mike Riley stood up and he says, anybody have any opening comments? Mike goes, who the fuck told us to move a dead body?
Oh, nice.
And the guy who did is a solid guy. He just, his face went, oh shit, I completely didn't think about that, right? But we had a couple different checks, and those are the things, they're little things, but there's stuff like that in an ICC that's so important to train to have those conversations, because people don't know that. People aren't aware of that. And it's fun. I guess in all of this and all the practice and everything, it's fun. The real side of it is, and you guys can talk to this, is we take some of that stuff home and apply it to even our lives today.
Correct. Well, the cool thing for me about the whole scenario that you're talking about, and Chris, I'm sure you went through something similar, is that, again, the respect factor of, hey man, we're all people out there and we're all looking to do the same thing. Doesn't matter who's in charge. Just because you're the mine manager or you're the general superintendent, you're not trained to do what I do, right? This is my scene. This is what you're paying me to do, and I'm here to help you make this decision. And I think as you go through those scenarios, those are super important to the mine sites, because as an employee, you want to respect your boss. But in those positions, you want to take the lead and say, hey, this is my profession. This is what I've chosen to do, right?
Be tactful.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
Do that, because we had an actual incident where somebody, they pulled that card on the superintendent. And if you do it the wrong way,
totally,
you'll hear about it. You'll hear about it, and the coordinator will hear about it, and the mine manager will hear about it, and everybody's going to hear about it. So be tactful. Understand that those, when somebody's coming up to you out at the mine and they're asking you questions and shit, they have a job to do. And when you tell them that they can't go in there, explain why. Don't just be like, no, you can't come in here, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Well, you can utilize them.
Yeah, they can be utilized, and they should be utilized. Yeah. They probably know more about that plant or that area than you do, right?
And they're good with
on where you're at.
They're good with helping with taking pictures and helping sizing up the scene and
just
different things.
Information.
Yep, totally.
They're looking at it from a different point of view as an operator or a responder. They're looking from a different lens, and you have to understand that. So when you're securing a scene and keeping somebody out, and they're a superintendent of a plant, give them some information. And we're not talking HEPA information or anything like that. but keep them in the loop. Let them know.
Yeah, I guess I was looking at more of being the incident command center, not necessarily being at the site, the site itself, because when you're at the site itself, and when I say site, the incident site, and there's something catastrophic that goes on, there is the incident command center that's down at the main office that you've got all the managers and the IC there, right? So you've got people communicating that are down at the office and up in the mine, and to where there's a couple different scenarios that you do have, to where you're trying to solidify your scene at the office, making sure everybody's staying calm and focused. But when you're up at the scene, there's another, there's so many other scenarios that go on there as well. People taking pictures, you've got supervisors wanting to come in and be a part of it, but letting the mine rescue guys do their job is the most important thing. And if you're recognizing that they need some help, work together, because when you get two guys that are trying to overrun each other at a scene, you're forgetting about the main part of the whole thing, right?
It's the last thing that you need. You don't need to be causing conflict on top of what you're already responding to. And IC starts at the scene. Incident command will start at the scene and then be kicked off over to the management building or whatever, whoever's going to form that team. So, yeah, it's just one of those things where...
I think you said it right, Chris. You, as a mine rescue individual, have 30,000 things going through your head, and it happens very easily for them to come in and ask a couple questions. You go, get the hell out of here, I don't want to talk to you. No, give them some information, calm down. That's the unique thing about a mine rescue individual, is regardless of the scenario, whether it's ICC or keeping somebody alive by chest compressions, you have to be calm. If you start to get emotional and start to get irrational, you can't handle that pressure. That's when problems happen.
So you're saying that you can't throw up if you... You're saying if you can't throw up, if you go on a call, if somebody's throwing up in the bag that you're holding, man, I felt like such a puss that day.
That happens, man. And sometimes the first time you see something, that's the other thing is you see some of these mine rescue individuals, they have experienced some stuff. They almost have a warped sense of humor too.
You have to.
I think so. I absolutely think so, because
that's self-preservation.
You know what? I believe that's 100% true.
You know what's cool, man? For me anyway, I guide in the wintertime for Thomas, right? And this last winter, I had a guy that's a Reno firefighter, and thought, hey man, cool, this guy, I'd talked to him for a couple months before. His name's Ryan Rizzuto. Anyhow, I started talking to him a couple months before his hunt, and we had a lot of time in the cab of the truck, and I started chatting with him back and forth, and just about what we're talking here, about seeing things and just getting, I don't want to say accustomed to things, but you just start seeing things that are normal, right? And I asked him, I said, hey man, this is my experience. How did you graduate above and beyond that? Because I got to a point where I had to tell myself that, you know what, man, I want to do the right thing and I can do it while I'm at work. I just can't run on the ambulance. You know what I mean? Because sooner or later, I'm going to run into somebody that is my family, or, with as small as we are here. And he just looked at me and said, you know what, man, you get numb to it. And it does, it hurts. And, you go through a lot of different things in your mind, and it messes with your mind. And there's a lot of guys that almost PTSD, to where we started talking about all that stuff. And so firefighters in these big communities, and even our local firefighters here, they go through the same stuff, right? I mean, we're all human. And I think our mine rescue guys go through the same stuff out there,
Yeah, well, that's you're going to see everybody's got a different tolerance, and we think we're handling things okay or whatever until we're not. And sometimes that comes with responding to a coworker or to a kid that looks like yours or same age as yours or whatever the case might be. But you're right. And that's something that the mines have been really good at, from what I've seen, as on, some mass casualty or fatalities. They provide counseling for mine rescue members and those types of things, because you're right. I mean, PTS is really a thing. And I mean, that's where it's kind of interesting. I think a lot of people, I think that they're dropping that D off the end because it was post-traumatic stress disorder. That's not a disorder. It's normal to be fucked up after you see something.
Yeah, no shit.
Like our veterans or like our firefighters or our EMTs and stuff like that. So when the mines provide that counseling and stuff like that, it really does show a lot of support to say, hey, we don't know what you're going through.
Supporting us, so we're going to support you.
Yeah.
So in one of those scenarios you guys are talking about, just kind of reminded me, we had a big scenario, a big scene. We life flighted out 2 individuals. 3 ended up going in by ambulance, and we had 3 light vehicles, right? So, and we're strapped on mine rescue individuals on our site. Actually, we had somebody from a different site come out because we didn't have enough people that are EMTs at the time. So one of the worst situations you could be in, and then things happen, right? The thought that I had the day after, and then everybody ended up being okay, but thought that I had the day after I looked around the line out room is that, one, we just spent an entire evening dealing with coworkers, friends that have gotten hurt, that were injured, yada, yada, yada. A, it's not our first profession. B, we're back out here at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we're supposed to be ready to dig holes again. And I think Art Sands, he did the hazmat training for us.
Signs,
that's what it was. Sorry.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's badass.
He mentioned at one time, and he said that the mine rescue individuals I've met at the mine sites up here in northern Nevada are some of the most unique people I've ever ran into in my life. He said, because if you go to Los Angeles and you ask a mine rescue individual, or you ask a firefighter or a paramedic to think outside the box, like the scenarios that he sets us through, they struggle to do that because they're very book smart. They've got a ton of book knowledge and they've experienced a ton of things. But when it comes to how to be a problem solver, they said, you guys will tell me 30 different ways to get somebody out of a scenario to save somebody's life. He's like, you'll use equipment, you'll use your belts, you'll start undressing to make things happen.
You'll run through a wall.
Yeah. And so the point I guess I'm trying to make is
miners get it done, bro.
Absolutely. And they are unique individuals, but it's not our first job.
No.
And so when you go through as a paramedic and you're a firefighter, you probably been coached on how to deal with some of these things. And you get some of that as a mine rescue individual. But as a mine rescue guy, you've been paid to dig dirt. And so dealing with some of that stuff might be difficult for you. And as a tough miner, I don't need to do that. So it's if it's real, it's out there, and something we should all take a deep breath on. And you should see somebody if you need to.
Yeah, back to what Art was saying there, though. I mean, I think that kind of goes back around to the the fart in the cab and the snake, or the baby over the berm. I think when you put people in those situations where they're forced to think out of the box and forced to pay attention to things that you normally aren't.
I don't think that was a fart. I think that was a shit.
That might have been. That was a shark.
Dude, that made me almost throw up. And then I got bit by a snake.
It was a bad day for Dino.
Dude, I guess going into this mine rescue Olympiad here in Elko, I'm looking forward to seeing what the scenarios are going to be. It always is clever. It's out of the box for mining mines to be a part of what's going on. I guess I'm going to look for you, Chris, to go, hey man, you're going to be the dead baby over the berm. Go lay over there. You're going to have this and this. I really hope that this stuff helps the mine sites. I do, because these guys are invaluable at the site, man. I mean, if taking it back to my first story down in Chile, man, I guess it's always been in my mind that if they had a world-class mine rescue team there, would things be different for me and Grover at this point? So I don't want to get choked up, but that's how I feel about the mine rescue teams up here, and that's how I look at the mine rescue. Is these guys are here to support all of our families here in northern Nevada, and all the mine rescue teams all over the world. They're there to keep our loved ones coming home safe every day. You know.
Yeah, and we need to support them as a community, right? And mining mines 100% behind mine rescue, and that's why we're going to try to help out with the Olympiad and support our miners that way the best that we can. And it's the 33rd annual, so I mean, obviously that thing's been around for a while, and people have been reaping the benefits of it. And fuck, man, I hope that thing keeps going on forever.
Dude, I have one question though. Are we rooting for Barrick? Are we rooting for Newmont? Are we rooting for Nevada gold mines? Or
here's what I'm rooting for. This is what I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for you being a pregnant lady.
Oh, perfect.
As a patient.
Well, my gut's there, so.
But hey, coordinators, if you're listening, make Dino Brightson pregnant woman, please.
Well, I'll tell you what, man.
I'll tell you what, Round Mountain might sneak in like they do.
Hey.
Those guys are solid down there.
On top of it.
Yeah, they've had a solid team.
They run that fucking town, dude, for
oh, yeah.
the emergency response.
So I'm hoping that Bald Mountain comes through You know what? Robertson, they had some good riggers on their team last year. And you guys out there listening, I guess regardless, come out and support it, man. The fun thing last year is I sat in a group of people, and this is the first time I experienced it, was I was able to actually sit there and explain some of this stuff. Hey, he's doing soft capture. Hey, what's soft capture? Or you know what I mean? And so I was kind of walking through some of the scenarios with these guys, and I think that instead of just sitting there and kind of watching people run around like chickens with their heads cut off, you could actually understand a little bit of what was going on. Regardless, go out and support these guys, man. They're the people that put in the extra time, the extra energy. They are the people that are trying to get better out there and keeping our minds safe.
Hey, we're making minds great again, for sure.
And some of them are the ones that are out there on the ambulance on the weekends or on
for sure, man.
Days on their time off. They're out there on the search and rescue crews going up into the mountains looking for missing people. They're on the fire department. You know, these are people that are dedicating a lot of time to this, and if they were to see you in need, they would be there for you. I'm almost 100% sure of that.
Dude, 100% sure, for sure.
But yeah, come out and support the Mine Rescue Olympiad. We will revisit and talk about the dates maybe as it gets closer. Yeah,
you guys brass in on our website for sure, and throw us a little bit of something. We'll let you guys know. We'll put it on our social medias, the dates of the Olympiad. We'll be down there. We're gonna be doing a little giveaway with some hats, some stickers, things like that. So looking forward to it, guys, for sure.
Well, all right. Check us out, miningmindsllc.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We even got something up on MySpace right now. Stay tuned.
Sweet.
Hey, adios.
Bringing it back.
Peace.
See ya.
Thanks for listening.